Hi, I'm Linda. I'm so happy to have you back. Today I finished up a really pretty little mountain scene, something I haven't done in a while. It's got some pretty little snow caps on the top, pretty sky, lots of different colors. The glacier rocks, I love doing those. Those are done with a palette knife. A little bit of highlights with some moss growing over the top. I'm going to call this one Glacier Waterfall. I think that's pretty appropriate. The highlights in the water, the pretty foliage and that. You're going to love painting this one, I know you are. So get your paints out, follow me. So let's get started. And here are the oil paints I used. Liquid white, titanium white, black, phthalo blue, Van Dyke brown, burnt sienna, sap green, alizarin crimson, yellow ochre, cad yellow, and red. And so now I've got some liquid white, and I'm going to go all the way probably just below the halfway mark. And I'm just going to put a very thin coat, very, very light. And then after that, I'm taking a shop towel, blue shop towel, and I'm going to take off all the excess. And you see how much actually comes off. Don't need all that. And so now I'm going into cad yellow. I'm going to make a little sunlight there. Just little X strokes in just above the halfway mark, not all the way to the top, but just a little bit, maybe an inch down. And then over to the left, oh, just a little ways. But I'm blending that in. It's picking up some of that liquid white, so it's going to be lighter in spots, which is fine. Just brushing it in. Adding a little bit of yellow ochre. Just a touch. I always tap my brush so I don't get too much. And just blend on that top corner there. Just to give it a little darkness there, just a little bit. And just blend that in as much as you can. Watch the hairs, because sometimes you can't be helped sometimes. So yeah, I'm just going to blend that in as much as I can. Leaving the center a little bit lighter there. I'm going to go into just a touch of red, just a very, very light. I tap it on my towel. I'm going to put it right over that yellow ochre and blend that in. It makes it a real pretty, I don't know, it's more subtle ochre color. Blending that in as much as you can. Going to add a little bit of white, I think, to that horizon line. There we go, just a little bit. I didn't want it quite that yellow, but you can make yours exactly how you want it. Put as much lightness in there if you want. Alright, so now a little black, touch of phthalo blue and white. Very, very little blue. I just want it kind of a, I want to say a blue-gray, a light, very light blue-gray. And I'm going to start up in the left corner, and I'm just going to do some X strokes all the way across. And you can blend into that yellow. It's not going to hurt anything. Into the right hand corner there a little bit. Put some darkness there. And here and there, you can put some grays across the sky, blending, and then going across with a clean, dry brush. I've got a 2-inch there that I use. Now I'm going to go into a little bit of burnt sienna and white. Very, very, it's almost a skin color, if you know what I mean. It's almost pink on the pinkish side, but I'm going to go right underneath that little yellow burst there, underneath by the yellow ochre, and I'm just going to put some little squiggly little clouds in there. Go a little bit more, and I'm going to add some more of that pretty color right above the yellow. Circular motions, making some clouds above, kind of soften those yellows up a little bit. And with the clean, dry, round brush, I just buff it out, the bottoms, and I buff it out. I'm making a phthalo and white with a touch of black, some more a very light blue, gray. Adding a little more white to that. I don't want it really dark, but I want it a little bit bluer than that gray that's up there. So little circular motions above where we put that burnt sienna color. Just tiny little circles, as those will buff right in and shape some beautiful clouds. So with a clean, dry, and I think that's a number 13. It's a pretty large fan brush, but boy, that works really cool when I'm buffing out the bottoms of those clouds. And I can flip my brush over on the clean part and just keep going, tapping my brush out there after I let up off the canvas. It's good to start with a fairly clean brush, and just blending. And you can make as many clouds as you want, because it's a fairly cloudy day. I'm going to be accenting the tops of those with white, so it'll look different. So I'm making a tiny bit of alizarin crimson and white. I'm making a real soft pink, very soft rose color with a small fan brush. And I'm going to go underneath, just around center line there, and make a little cloud line right in there. We're going to have mountains in this scene. It's almost like a rainbow sky, isn't it? So now I've added a little bit of blue plus alizarin crimson, which makes that lavender color. It probably is a little dark, so I'll be adding some white to that to soften that up. Buff it out, and then add a little bit of white. That's how I'm going to save that cloud. It looks very dark right now, but I'm not worried. I'm just going to add a little white after that, and that'll bring it all back. There we go. See how pretty that's going to look? I'm adding some white, little circles of clouds above there, random, doesn't have to be any kind of pattern, it's just little circles, working my way upward, wherever I feel I want some white clouds. And I usually put, a few in there, and then I'll go back and buff them out. It's good to stand up and take a good look. Step back. So now I'm buffing out those clouds, just the bottom part of it. And the nice thing about oil paint like this is you can go back and you can change things pretty easy. If it's too dark in areas, you can lighten it up, or you can add more light. Alright, there we go. I'm going to add a mountain. And I'm going in with a filbert brush, kind of a rounded filbert brush. Going into black, a little bit of white. I'm making a very light, well, medium gray, I guess, with a touch of blue. Not much so. But I want fairly soft big mountain back there. I don't want a lot of paint on it, so that's why I usually do with my palette knife. But this time I'm going to do the little paintbrush and just etch out my mountain tops and then fill it in, because I don't want a lot of paint on these mountains. But I'm just shaping the top of that one on the left there. I didn't go all the way to the top. I probably came down maybe 1.5 inches maybe. And then I'm just brushing some of that paint down, leaving some of those dark areas in there to give it some depth and feel. So I'm angled down into a second little peak. Same thing, I'm just deciding the shape of it, how I want it, filling it in. Just slowly making my way at an angle down, off to the side. It's not going to be right straight down, but. And I just kind of go back and forth, leaving some of those angles in the mountains. Just gives it a little texture, and looks like there's a lot of rocks and crevices there. So I'm making a couple of smaller peaks there. Those are going to be in the far distance. Adding a little white and maybe a touch of that lavender color we have on the palette. So I want it to look far in the distance. So now I'm bringing that second big peak mountain all in front of that. Bringing that line right in front, working my way down. I don't have to go all the way to the right because we're going to have some big trees there. Just bringing some of that paint down, blending it. If you have too much, you can put a shop towel over the top of that and let it soak up some of that extra paint. So I will be highlighting with some white, but I'm not going to use my palette knife this time. I'm just going to use a little brush because I want it really soft looking. And putting some little angles here and there, darker areas. I have a little filbert, just tapping a little bits of snow on those peaks on the right side. And same in the back, those distant mountains in the back, just a touch of white on those peaks. Not very much, because they're far in the distance. Okay, so I'm just pulling some of those, it looks like water runoff, but I'm just shaping the mountain. Just bringing some of that runoff down. Just ever so soft. This mountain is pretty quiet. And tapping with a dry brush, just softening those white areas. And tapping in where I put those darker areas, just giving it a little more dimension and shape. I don't really want the straight lines. I want to have it look like there's rocks and things in there. Big boulders. And I'll be curving that around. Doing the top, the next peak there. You don't need a lot, just a matter of just tapping. And you can put a little bit of yellow highlights on the tops of those peaks too. Just here and there, snow, little water runoffs. Because this is a summer picture. And the other peaks, gotta highlight those too, those snow peaks up there, water runoffs. Probably a little more tedious than using a palette knife. But the palette knife leaves a little heavier layer of paint on there. I just wanted this a soft mountain. So I did put a little layer of sap green with a fan brush. I just lifted up, made little tree lines in the back there, no big deal. And then I'm putting below that tree line, I'm tapping in some dark black with a touch of white, really a dark gray, very dark. And I'm lifting up. I'm putting a few more of those evergreens way in the distance. You see how I make those? I just lift up with my fan brush. It's a small brush. Lift up and tap at the base. Now I've got a shop towel with it's a little bit of thinner on it. I wanted to shape where my waterfall is going to go. So I want that real a white area. I don't want that dark there. So that's how I did that. Now I'm going to a little bit of yellow ochre and burnt sienna and a little bit of red. I'm going to put some color on the tops of those trees in the background. Sunlight is hitting there, so I want to put some color back there. Alright, so I'm going into a little bit of the yellow ochre and a little bit of yellow. Maybe I don't want to say green yet, but I'm just more of a yellow ochre and touch of yellow. I'm going to just make a big tree line here. Start there and then gradually arc up. And you know, a lot of these probably won't even show. Maybe just the tops of the trees. So you don't have to be real super fussy. But go all the way up, almost to the top. It's just background color. I took a shop towel since there was a lot of paint there and I'm just putting it over it. Okay, you see I added some pine trees there and some grasses, shaped that waterfall, I'm bringing some land down in the front with some dark Van Dyke brown, a little bit of burnt sienna. So now I'm just making the background for some rocks. Putting a dark color, dark gray, with a palette knife. Shaping some glacier rocks. And alongside of the waterfall, I haven't put the water in yet. I wanted to get the rocks in first. Big rock formations alongside of that waterfall. Taking a little bit of white, touch of white, pulling down like as if there's water run off those rocks. And pulling some more of that down. Okay, I'm making a deep, not a deep lavender, but it's alizarin crimson with a touch of the blue. I'm going to put a little bit of water way in the top there where the fall starts. Just background color, getting ready for the white. And if you think you have too much, put a shop towel over it, soak up some of that oil. Go into the white now on your fan brush or on your palette knife. Hold it steady and just pull down. And finish off. I finished it off with a fan brush. Going back to my rocks, perfecting that. A little bit of blue, a little bit of lavender, touch of white. A little too much paint on my brush, I always dab it off. Oh, there's a little, it's quite pale actually. A little bit of dark, just very, very light lavender grayish color. And I'm going to put that down in front there a little bit. Little water lines. And I'm going to bring a little bit of that color to the front, which is going to be quite a bit darker. Adding some rocks there along the shoreline. Going into white, fan brush, maybe give that another couple good swipes, brighten it up a little bit. And once you start, just go all the way down. And you can leave some of those dark areas in there. I'm pushing up with a clean amount on my brush there. Just pushing up, I'm creating some water splashes below. And tapping with a dry brush. Adding a little bit of yellow highlights there below that. Grayish blue color. Sunlight's coming down on the water. Putting a little lavender way in the front and a little bit of phthalo blue in the center. Be able to add white to that to make sure it doesn't turn green on you. But it's working out pretty good. I'm adding a few boulders in the water with a small brush. You can put as many as you want in there. Going into dark sap green, touch of black, or a touch of Van Dyke Brown. I'm adding some dark color first, these evergreens. Got a big one on the right there. I make my second big one. See those trees in the back? You're going to barely see those, maybe just the tops. So side to side, getting some of that dark green in there. Putting another one, pretty good sized one, that's going to go all the way down. And you can add as many trees as you want. I just put these here and there. Now I'm going in with some cad yellow, and I highlighted cad yellow, a touch of sap green, just a very touch, and highlighted the outside or the insides of those evergreens. Oh, I'm not done yet. I'm putting another huge tree in here. It's going to be the closest one. And that will come all the way down to the little piece of land that's coming, jutting out there a little bit. Going right over the water there, right onto that little land piece. That's going to be the closest one. Going into cad yellow, a touch of green, just a touch. A little bit of thinner, quite a bit on there, and I'm going to highlight the inside of those big trees, just here and there. Little splashes of yellow. See how pretty that looks? Same color. And start putting a little moss on the tops of those glacier rocks. Just a little filbert, chiseled edge, and just tap and shape, kind of arc downward. You don't have to push very hard. Just angle them downward. And that paint is fairly thin too. It's not very thick. And you can touch on any of those rocks as you want. Those were really a lot of fun to make. So I'm going to put another big old evergreen here, right there. Same color, dark sap green, with a little bit touch of brown, touch of black. But it's a very, very dark green. All the way down into that little landmass there. And then highlight the inside with some cad yellow, a touch of white. Now I've got a little, it's a little round brush. Actually, it's a 1-inch. And I'm just tapping some color at the bottom there. Some little, maybe, I don't know, they could be flowers, some grassy areas. Gonna add a little bit of movement in the water with a palette knife with white on it. Just kind of etching around in there, causing, you can see the water movement. Gonna go around the bend pulling out a little bit. That really makes it pretty, doesn't it? And some water movement in the middle. Wow, I love doing this one, and I hope you do too. So until next time, happy painting and God bless.